Hello. Welcome to the hard reset. What just happened?
Of him putting like, some kind of wiring on, or in this case, like some kind of gears.
Oh, yeah.
Go back together or whatever. And he'd be like thinking about it in his head. He'd be like, and then he would like put it together.
No, and that's actually a really awesome way to be.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people in technical positions, and they cannot do that. They can't. And it's not. It has nothing to do with mechanical, electrical, or even physician wise. They just don't have that thought process to be able to say this is how things should work. I mean, there's a lot of people that can say this is how I think something should work, which is totally different from this is how things work. Yeah. Which I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well.
Oh, no. I mean, here I go with my book of useless knowledge. Nikola Tesla used to say that he could literally sit there and visualize deconstructing a mechanical device in his head, basically exploding, if you will, like an exploded view before there was exploded views on paper of something, and then bring it back together to see whether it would work or not. Tesla coils, like all this kind of stuff that he had going on. And it's like a kind of a weird, I thought that was like a normal thing for mechanically inclined people, is having that ability to kind of pulling all apart in your head and thinking about how it works. Right. Or even like I talked about, where he's like, I'd see dad like kind of go all lockjawed and like be looking at something. And in his mind, he'd be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how this connects to this.
Right.
To make this work. Because if I do it wrong in a wrong sequence, it may work, but it's not tripping this other lever that does this other part or whatever. Because like there's certain things you can put back together and it'll work. But in this case, like the grounds that I'm talking about for the rear light, if you don't put it in the right sequence, or if you don't put like whatever, everything else will work, but now your brake light won't work.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to work properly. So
like one depends on something else, and it's literally like a sequence deal. And some of those guys would be like, they just cram everything on there, and then you're like, oh, I don't know why this doesn't work. It's because you're not thinking about how one thing ties into another thing. And it's like he would used to be. I literally watched him go again, like beep 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 beep, like putting it in his head and be like, and then he would agree with himself, like, okay,
right,
and then he would like put it all together or whatever, and it freaking work.
I liked it when he'd let us do dumb stuff.
Oh yeah,
intentionally.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah. I mean, everybody jokes about like you see all these edgy guys, talking about motorcycles and all this kind of stuff, and they're like safety second. My dad invented safety second. Okay, I watched him do so much dumb stuff of being like, just like there were no rules about doing stuff. And then his consequence was his decision to change something. Like it was the consequences of his action, not like having some kind of bad outcome. Was like, you know what? I guess I'll never do that again or whatever. Yeah. After he got shocked by something or whatever. So, or in this case, like, watch him like grenade an engine or something.
That's kind of funny in a way. Cause I think, man, there's so many things I've learned in life. And that's how I learned was, and sometimes I knew it was a bad idea, but other times I didn't know it was a bad idea. But then after it happened, it was like, that was a really bad idea. Let's never do that again.
Yeah. I mean,
and then let's let some other people know, swallow some pride, suck it up, and just be like,
admit,
hey, you know what?
You don't know something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, dude. I'll be the first one to admit I've jacked up a lot of stuff because I'm like, you know what? I can do that. Right. And then you start getting into it and you're like, wow, this is way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. After I got whatever laid out all over with like, 15,000 bolts or something. Right. Yeah. I'm like, that was a terrible idea. Now I don't know how to put it back together.
Oh God, I've had like really simple things. Like, I remember one time, Justice and her mom, they were going to go somewhere and there was a breaker that was bad in our panel. I don't even remember what room. Actually, it doesn't even matter what room we went to. It was like, so they're leaving, they're going to go hang out with their grandmas or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm going to swap out this breaker while you guys are gone. Oh, maybe it was for like the living room. So, like a common room that we all use. So I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm going to change out this breaker while you guys are gone. And she's like, well, be careful. And I was like, it's just a breaker.
Oh no.
Well, I got all sidetracked with
220 volts
well, it
or whatever it was.
It was only like just standard,
like 120 or 110.
120, yeah. So, but at the same time though, I did get in a hurry because I meant to do it while they were gone, and I got sidetracked with basically like work stuff at the time. I think at that time I was doing some stuff for Homeland Security, and it's just some weird crap, it's just kind of offshoots at that time. So it wasn't really pressing, but at the same time, it was like, oh man, I totally forgot about this. I better get this done. And then I'm like looking at a clock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to be home here in a minute.
I haven't done anything.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't done anything. So you know what? I run down and I'm going to change this breaker out.
Electrical, just so you know, electrical is my bugaboo. Okay.
I'm not sure how
I'm super weird about that because like I've heard stories of like people having their bottom of their feet blown out or their hands, something because they're messing with like some kind of electrical stuff that they have no business to be messing with. But go ahead.
I've got plenty of stories about electricity. This is only one of the few. But so obviously, Justice's mom made the comment of, hey, be careful. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I've got this. What could possibly go wrong? Dude, I kid you not. So after I dicked around for probably the better half of the day and then was like, oh man, I was going to take care of this before they get home. Then I run down there and I stick the screwdriver, and there's whoever thought that would be a good idea to screw breakers in, because most breakers you can actually pop out and they don't actually, there's nothing physical holding them in there other than tension.
Wire on the back of it.
But these guys, they're just they're screwed in. So I go take the screwdriver and stick it in there to unscrew the breaker from the panel. And apparently I grounded it out to something. I don't know what it was, but I had a Phillips screwdriver. It should have actually been a square drive, but I was trying with that's why I'm gonna blame it on
wrong tools.
I'm gonna blame it on the wrong tools. When I think about it, I'm glad we've had this discussion. Not the fact that you're
shoving a metal object into, 120 volt, whatever.
Dude, it literally blew the whole entire end off of the screwdriver. It was it was gone. It's like, and then I had like this flash burn, so I couldn't see shit. It's kind of, I couldn't see poops.
Yeah,
that's gonna splice in nice. But anyways, so it's kind of like when you go outside on a snowy day, you get snow blinded. Well, multiply that by like 20 plus.
Yeah. So
I can't see crap. And I'm trying to get this breaker changed out.
You just looked at a welder? Is that?
Yeah. Actually, that's pretty close to that. And at the same time, of course, you can smell the shrapnel in the air. Then you can hear the front doors opening as Justice and her mom, they're coming in the house. And Justice, she's like, what's that smell?
So you're stumbling around with a blown off screwdriver in your hand, smelling like a crispy critter.
Exactly.
And you can't see stuff.
Yeah. It went way super wrong. It was like, I've got this. I can do this. But
hey, I mean, I'm telling you what, speaking of hard, I mean, people talk smack about boomers or whatever, but Dad, I watched him change stuff when he didn't shut off the power. Speaking of doing things with bad consequences.
Well, you know what? Yeah. That's kind of how I roll anymore. I generally, I mean, unless you get into like 440 and plus, then I probably will not shut power off.
I don't care what you say. He would say things like, it's not the voltage that gets you, it's the amperage. The amperage.
It is. And actually it is too.
Yeah. And he'd be like pulling stuff off, and it'd be like, you'd hear the crispy crackling of like something going on. I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Why wouldn't you just go to the breaker box and shut the power off?
And this is why I can relate to him saying it's not the voltage, it's the amperage. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one, it is fact, but regardless of that, the Volkswagen, I put, Max Electric built a 200 amp alternator for me. Yeah, so it's only putting out like 14, 15 volts, but it's 200 amps. And there was one day when I was laying down in like the garage. And so I'm on the garage floor on the concrete. Actually, that didn't make any sense. But anyway, so I'm laying across the sill plate up underneath the dash trying to do something with the stereo. And the car is running, and that thing bit me. I didn't get, it wasn't like Man, because I've been electrocuted before by like 120 and 220.
So you're coming from a place of experience.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
No, so it's something totally different. But that 12 volt, 200 amps. I think that's what got me was the 200 amps. That was just freaking insane. It's like, you know what? Give me like 400 volts at like 1.5 amps all day long. I can do that. That's like a walk in the park.
Give me 0 amps at 0 voltage. Okay. No, thank you. That's the reason why I hire professionals for said things.
Oh, hey, if you're anything done, let me know. And I could probably help you.
Hey, I don't want you dead on my floor in my house. Okay. Cause I wanted an extra 200 amp breaker or something for a welder or something. So yeah, no, thank you. Now I would have my dad come over there and change that stuff out, which is horrible, but I would have dad. I will relinquish my man card and say that I would have dad come over there and do certain things because he knew what he was doing.
All right.
It's like the old Clint Eastwood, man. A man's got to know his limitations. All right. And I knew my limitations. My bugaboo was voltage and
I think that's awesome. Just to be able to say, just like, you know, I know I can't do this, and I know why I can't do it.
Yeah.
So definitely never say, well, I can't do this because I don't want to do it.
No,
I mean, I guess you could say that, but that's totally different.
I think if I would like actually commit time to like figuring out how to do that stuff, I would. But it's like, again, it's like you have these like stories ingrained from, you know, as a kid or whatever. Dad's like, oh yeah, you know, he has a buddy that comes walking in. He's all, you know, all mangled hand,
the mangled hand,
right? And it's like,
yeah, right.
Permanently,
give me two fingers.
It's like permanently black on one side. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, old Jesse there. He was changing. You know, he was up on a power pole, and that's why you don't bridge the two wires or whatever on the power pole or whatever. And that was his moment of wisdom to me. Show me old Jesse with the burn up hand. That's his buddy. And he would like, you know, that's back when people didn't care about people's feelings either. So they could joke about, you know, with this stuff about each other or whatever, fully knowing this guy no longer has function in his hand. And be like, you could be like old, you know, dumbass. And he'd be like, point to him while he was standing there. And the guy would be like, yeah, you're right. And he'd be like, that's the reason why you don't do this or whatever. I'm like, Dad, he's right there. He's like, he's agreeing with you. Obviously, he knows what you're saying or whatever. So like, you know, that was like horrific. Or he'd be like, I know so-and-so. He blew the bottoms of his feet out because he literally stepped there's power lines down from a storm, and he went walking, you know, was walking barefooted as a kid, 1906 or whatever they were
Jimmy
from or whatever.
Toes.
Yeah. He went walking across there and he stepped on the power line and it, you know, whatever, it grounded it out or whatever. And then he would somehow wrap it all up, be saying, well, that's how a ground works. Or whatever. Like,
that's how a ground.
You didn't teach me how a ground works. All I heard is part of the story about how the dude got his feet blown out or whatever. And then he somehow like managed to survive. Now he wears special shoes because he can't fit his feet in anything else. Like, what the hell, Dad? So yeah, but boomers were hard as woodpecker lips, man. They were hard as woodpecker lips.
Do woodpeckers have lips?
I don't know. I'm assuming if they smack their beak against a tree, I don't know.
Okay,
that was an old man saying.
We'll have to look into that. As hard
as woodpecker lips.
We'll have to look into that.
Apparently, it's very popular now, but that's where I heard it from. My bosses right now always say I have my Coreyisms because I have these sayings. It's usually like a combination of sayings that I got from my dad.
Yeah,
because he's just a big old hill jack. And then the sayings that I would get from the military, because it's like its own culture in the sense too, whereas they, you know, effed up like a football bat.
Whoa. What does that mean?
You're jacked up like a football bat.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as a football bat. Well, maybe there is in some foreign version of whatever football. But it'd be like jacked up like a football bat. In other words, it's like, so like, why would you have a football bat? It's so out of whack. But that's like a military saying. Kind of like
jacked up like a basketball or tennis racket. Is that a thing?
Yeah, maybe that's something new you can start.
I might start that.
That could be a Keithism.
Are you down with it?
I'll say it to somebody.
All right. We're doing this.
Yeah.
It's going to go
or you're like a monkey.
Viral.
Again, I'm not trying to get us demonetized, but like a monkey fucking a football.
Ooh.
Right?
How does that happen?
I don't know. I've never personally witnessed it, but that is a military saying.
How many holes does said football have?
No holes. So I don't know how. Yeah.
That's going to be a complicated one.
Yeah.
I should probably pause right about meow. Because we got to get to.
I agree because. Yes. Let's
Aliens.
go back to the aliens thing. I have to go pee and I'll come back, and then I will tie I'll put a big ribbon on this whole thing.
Okay.
And explain to how I got to aliens.
And then we got to get to the actual.
Yes. I'll make it brief. So.